What's up, how's it going? It's the boy Don Sison, one million, depending on where you are. Right now, Titan Country, the new episode. It's gonna be What If Shinra Got the Black Leg, Learn the Black Leg Style, Part 3. And yes, I know, I uploaded like a week ago, and some of you thought he wasn't gonna upload for like another month, cause, yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, I was gonna upload this. I was gonna try to upload earlier, but stuff happened that got in the way of me uploading. And I was supposed to do it like 2 days ago, but stuff got in the way. But it's coming now, so get ready for the video. Let's go. Last episode, we went over Shinra's first mission, how Arthur met his master, Roronoa Zoro, and we left off with the two staring down Maki, who was ready to spar against her new subordinates. Maki had already made her first move, slapping the two recruits up in one quick and powerful kick that resulted in Arthur accusing her of being an ogre in disguise. Hearing that set her off, and she began rushing toward the two. Shinra, out of fear for his well-being, agreed to back his rival up without actually attacking Maki due to Sanji's influence. Arthur, on the other hand, was fine attacking her, as his master Zoro never taught him about it being wrong to turn his blade on a woman, and he himself had dropped the chivalry act, having thrown such an accusation at his superior. So, as Maki began to rush toward the two, Shinra reacted by blasting himself forward, blitzing past Maki before she could even register. She then began to turn on instinct, not knowing that Shinra had zero intent to hurt her. "You'll regret turning your back to me," Arthur said gently, as he tightly gripped his blade and focused on his opponent. He then rushed towards Maki, but she then used her pyrokinesis to manipulate both Arthur and Shinra's flames, making them flare out of control. This caused Arthur to get knocked off balance and Shinra to fly away. Maki then backed off, trying to catch her breath. "These kids, I can already tell like they're unlike any other rookies I've seen. They're so fast that if I drop my guard for it..." Before she could finish her thought, Arthur ran toward her with his Excalibur, while it was sputtering out of control. "So, you truly thought that this was too much for me to handle? No matter what form my Excalibur takes, I will always be able to wield my blade." He then jumped toward Maki, swinging his sword downward while yelling, "Itoriyu! Yurigenai hono akuma no ha!" "Stop!" Maki yelled, while putting out both of her hands to extinguish the flames that she augmented, causing Excalibur to just miss her, and Arthur to land on his knees. Maki had started to sweat and breathe heavily. "If that attack had hit me, then..." "Close, but not close enough, you idiot!" Arthur and Maki looked to who yelled, and saw that it was Shinra, who was trying to rein in the flames at his feet, though he was still having trouble regaining his balance. "These kids, they really are something else." Hinua then walked over. "You kids aren't bad. Though Shinra, you really need to get over this not hitting women thing. It'll really be a problem." "But Vice Captain," he whined. Arthur then chimed in saying, "Chivalry is the knight's code. Even they know how to identify a woman versus an ogre in disguise." Hinua then continued by saying, "Arthur, you just seem like an idiot," making Arthur frown and Shinra chuckle. As the vice captain began to wrap it up, Arthur looked over to Maki. "Just so you know, even with you shrinking my blade, if I wanted, I'd be able to cut you down." He then directed his gaze to his rival up ahead. "Heck, even the devil probably could have overwhelmed you with his speed." He then began to walk away. "My point being, we're a lot stronger than most, due to the training we received. Don't underestimate our ability." He then disappeared into the company building, as Shinra yelled at him that he had to introduce himself to the captain. Hinua just smirked. I can't say I'm disappointed with our new recruits." After that, the first mission with both recruits would be the same, except for the two not being as shaken up as in the original, since Shinra had already been on a mission where he had to cleanse an infernal and went through the emotions via talking with his master. Arthur would be fine since while he hadn't fought an infernal before, he had been drilled with lessons into him by his master. He had been told before that he had the right to take someone's life if it was a true battle, though he'd have to make that judgment call. And he said he didn't think that there would be any reason to spare an infernal, but if he finds one, then to trust his gut. He also been told to remember that there's always honor in cutting down an infernal, since you're freeing them from the shackles of their now ruined body. One of the other lessons that Zoro taught his student was that scars on the back were the shame of a swordsman. So, Arthur faced the infernal towards him and rammed his Excalibur through its chest, even though the man wasn't a swordsman. After that, it was time for the newcomer tournament. As Shinra and Arthur pumped themselves up, they both got surprise visitors. Arthur, as he practiced swinging his blade, heard someone say, "So, it'd seem that Excalibur I made you is still working just fine." He turned around, and we were surprised. "Mr. Shimotsuki? What are you doing here?" Shimotsuki patted Arthur on his head. "Well, Zoro told me that he was interested in how you do during this, but he was also too lazy to come, so he asked me if I wanted to." Arthur groaned, obviously annoyed. Koshiro laughed, and the two began to chat. Koshiro Shimotsuki was someone introduced to Arthur by his teacher. He was a swordsmith that met Zoro through his master, and he also crafted some equipment for fire soldiers. And as stated, he was the one that made Arthur's Excalibur. As for Shinra, he pumped himself up, stretching and getting hyped until he felt an arm sling around him. What? What the? Shinra had no idea what was going on, and then heard some boisterous laughter coming from behind him. He then turned around and raised to eye level of the person that was holding him. "So, this is the likes of my grand pupil." What? Shinra somewhat shrieked. The man then asked, "Oh, come on. Don't tell me that pervert seriously neglected to mention the one that trained him." Shinra then looked the man up and down and asked, "Wait, grand pupil? Are you my master's master? Red Leg Zeph?" Zeph grinned and told Shinra he was right on the money. "Good, so that idiot didn't forget to mention me. It's taken too long for me to meet you, especially after hearing so much about you from Sanji. Now let's talk." Zeph told Shinra that shortly after he took him in, Sanji had told him about the kid, and would sometimes ask for advice since he was the one that had trained him as a kid. As the two spoke and got familiar, Shinra spotted Captain Burns and recognized him from the accident 12 years ago. Zeph followed his eyes. "Burns, huh? What's your fascination with him?" Shinra then told him where he remembered him from, and that he wanted to ask him some questions. "Oh, I can help with that." Zeph took the lad over to him. "Oh, hello, Red Leg. Who's the kid?" Burns asked. Shinra then introduced himself, and Burns tried to brush him off, but Zeph stayed on him, and Tamaki stayed out of the way seeing that Shinra was with the captain. Though even with that, the two's questions went unanswered. What was that about? Was he hiding something? Shinra asked to no one in particular. "I get what you mean," Zeph told him. He then took a knee, grabbing Shinra by the shoulders and looking him in the eye. "Listen, kid, I don't want you to worry about that for now. Just focus on winning with all your master taught you. I'll look into Burns." Shinra smiled and bowed. "Thank you, Grandmaster. Don't worry, I'll crush it." The boy then got ready and the competition began, with Shinra and Arthur blowing past the competition. Shinra immediately flew to the top floor, and Arthur blitzed ahead of all the competition, having a feeling his rival would pull something like that. As Shinra made it to the top, he'd then see Joker, surrounded by the battered bodies of the actors hired for the exercise. His introduction would go like normal, with him cluing in Shinra about him knowing something about the incident that killed his mother and brother, and him attempting to attack one of the actors after. Shinra would step in, but this time, he would be putting up an excellent fight. Joker would be impressed with his power and fighting style, Shinra being fast enough to dodge and counter. It'd be to the point where Joker would say, "That's enough, kid. You've impressed me. As a reward, I'll give you this little tidbit of information. Your brother's alive." After the shock of hearing the claim, Joker would egg him on and give the ultimatum of playing hero with the Fire Brigade or being a devil that uncovers truth with him. Shinra would of course pick hero,
telling that he would find his own way to uncover truth while still being a hero. Joker would then chuckle to himself. You know, kid, you interest me. With how you fight, you can clearly take care of yourself. And how you talk, it'd seem you're already looking into the fire brigade. Alright, fine. But we'll meet again. In the future, I'm sure I'll be able to find an opportunity for us to work together. Right then, Arthur would appear and Shinra would tell him who Joker was. Arthur believing Shinra since this was a much more serious version of him. They'd then both launch an assault on the intruder, but it would be cut short due to the building about to explode. Arthur would cut through the ceiling and Shinra flew him and the actors out. Luckily, no one else had made it to the top yet besides those two, and everyone got out safely. Red Leg Zeph. After the newbie tournament, Zeph couldn't shake his suspicions of Burn. He was hiding something. Both me and the kid could see. Zeph remembered the talk he and Shinra had with Burns. He then thought back to what he told him after his grand pupil got his bearings. Nice job, kid. Low, he said while getting low. What you said that guy told you, it just makes me even more curious. But just remember this. Your Grandmaster will help you get to the bottom of that incident from 12 years ago. He remembered his grand pupil's trusting face. He was sure he could count on him, and he didn't want to let that trust go to waste. It was like meeting your precious grandchild for the first time. And concerning the fact that Sanji was like a son to Zeph, that made sense. Zeph would go through old reports and thoroughly read up on the fire that killed Shinra's mother and brother. While going through it, he saw that Sho Kusakabe's body was never found, and while most might just rule it out as him being incinerated, new developments might point to him actually being alive. With this, Zeph would find Burn to confront him, but once again, would get nowhere, though he did get a remark that only stroked even greater suspicion. I'm serious, Burns. What if the kid is really alive? You better not be hiding anything from me, darn it! Burns was walking away from Zeph, but then turned and got close. Listen, Zeph, you don't want to go down this rabbit hole. Trust me. He then walked away without any follow-up from either. While Burns hoped to quell his fellow officer's suspicions, he only did the opposite, hardening Zeph's commitment into looking into this, thinking it might lead to something even bigger. Shortly after the conversation, Zeph made a call. Joker. Back at Joker's hideout, he met up with his associate, Victor Leet, and talked about his encounter with the so-called devil that had joined the Eight. So, was he everything you hoped for? Victor asked. Actually, he kind of was, Joker responded. He was really strong, especially for a newbie, and I could tell that he already had the intent to look into the Fire Force. Not to mention, even in danger, he was still able to flash those pearly white fangs at me, like some sort of psychopath or something. It intrigued me. The only thing bad about it was I turned down my proposal to leave the fire brigade. But he trailed off as he lit up a cigarette and took a puff. A large grin then formed on his face as he told him, even if he doesn't want to betray them, I still think I might be able to get him to help me in a fight against the establishment. But that's for the future. Can't say I'm that excited though. Sanji's house. At Sanji's house sat him, Shinra, and Pudding, all eating dinner. Shinra came to tell his master about him meeting his master, along with some of the other events that transpired during the newbie competition. After they all finished, Sanji asked Pudding to put the dishes in the sink for them, and that he'd get to them in a minute, but first he wanted to talk to a student real quick. She told him sure thing, and the master and student went onto the balcony to talk. So, I heard about what happened at the competition. I doubt you just came here to talk about who you ran into. Shinra nodded. Wait, who did you hear about this from? The boy asked. Who do you think? Sanji asked while pulling out a phone from his pocket. My master called me. Along with filling me in, he said, I know you didn't exactly want to retire, so I hope you two idiots are all healed up and didn't just laze around for the time you were out. Though knowing you two, especially Broccoli Head, I highly doubt that, even with all the naps he takes. In other words, get ready to come out of retirement. The next day, Arthur would be walking down a street that he knew well. It's right up here, he'd say aloud to no one but himself. He'd then walk up to a house that doubled as an equipment shop and forge. Walking in, "Mr. S! Mr. S!" he shouted out. A moment later, he'd hear footsteps as the door slid open to reveal Koshiro Shimotsuki. "Arthur, glad to see you again. Don't tell me that Excalibur wasn't as functional as I thought it'd be, huh?" No, nothing like that," Arthur reassured him. "I just felt like visiting." The two then wound up sitting and talking for a while, and during the conversation, Zoro got brought up. You know, Koshiro began. "Now that I think about it, I've told you how I met Zoro, as I told you it was because I was considered his master, and never went into further detail." "I guess so," Arthur nonchalantly said. Well, how about this?" Koshiro said. "I think you have the right to know more about your own master's past, though Zoro might want to be the one to tell you."
Fine, whatever. Koshiro and Arthur then looked to the side to see Zoro standing in the doorway. "Perfect timing, Zoro. I think you should clue your young protege in on more about your past. It only makes sense." Zoro once again said fine, and popped a squat around the table that the other two were at, then looked to Arthur. "Okay, kid, open up your ears and prepare to get a glimpse into my past." Alright, so that's going to be the end of today's video. That was Blackleg Shinra 3. And if you didn't, and as for the ending of that, that's going to go into the next episode, which is going to be this Fire Force version of Zoro's backstory, which is going to be split up into multiple parts, because there's a lot of backstory to go through. And trust me, it'll be a very enjoyable ride. It's not going to be the exact same as Zoro's backstory from the original One Piece, but it will take some elements from it, and it's going to make its own little thing. It's going to shine some light on how Zoro started up, how he grew up, who his master was, some of the people he met on the way, and how he ended up with the Fire Force. Because it's not as simple as he felt like fighting Inferno, so he joined. No. It's more than that. But, you'll have to wait and see. So if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, do all that. Check out my channel for more videos. If you like, stick around. And share all that junk. But for today, that's going to be done. Saucing out. See you later. Bye.